Today I'll be riding one of Makara Peak's oldest and most iconic trails, Vertigo. Joining me on this ride is my friend Andy. We'll be taking you through some different line options and some of the more challenging features on the track. This first feature consists of 3 separate line choices. You've got a high line, a middle line, and a low line. The high line is the most technically challenging of the 3, with a blind entrance and a gap around the size of a tyre that you need to squeeze through. This makes the line pretty easy to mess up, and would also be quite a challenge in wetter conditions. That being said, it does feed you nicely into the sneaky inside line. The middle line is by far the smoothest out of all 3 lines, although it does have a very narrow entrance and the potential for a rock strike. I'd recommend keeping your left pedal at the top of its stroke when dropping into this line. The low line is by far the most ridden, but isn't necessarily the best option. It's got the most forgiving entrance, but by far the chunkiest run down this section of trail. The next section of track is one of the more recent additions to the trail. It consists of a series of big supported berms, and it's great fun to ride. This little right hand drop ahead is a bit of a pinch point and can be quite tricky, so if you start up high to the left and control your speed, it shouldn't be too bad. This off-camber rock roll can be quite intimidating, particularly when it's greasy. It does have an A line and a B line, but I'd recommend trying to take the A line if possible, just so you can get enough speed to get up the pinch climb afterwards. If you are riding the A-line in greasy conditions, try keeping your speed into it and unweighting your bike, as riding the section too slow will cause you to slip. The next right hand is quite a sharp corner. I missed the line here, but if you go high left, you'll set up much better into it. This next rocky chute has 3 main line choices. The middle and low start from the same point on the left, and the high line goes on an off-camber bank on the right. You can see here that the low line follows the bottom of the rut, whereas the middle line goes up and around, providing more support and a smoother run. Here's Andy riding the low line. You can see it's a pretty chunky line and sets him up poorly for the tight corner at the bottom. The middle line is a lot smoother and sets him up with a lot more exit speed. Here I am on the high line. It's a pretty sketchy off-camber run-in, but you can see it absolutely catapults you out of that feature. Here's a first-person view. There's a few options on Vertigo to ride North Shore drops and seesaws, but to be honest I don't really trust myself to be able to ride in a straight line, so I normally give them a miss. The track was recently diverted left here. It used to run straight into a very deep clay rut, and now it goes over this off-camber rooty section, which is just as difficult as the old line. Bit more fun though. This section of track's pretty slow and meandering. It can be a bit difficult to follow at times due to all the leaf litter.
And wild, Andy.
It's like I'm using all the fucking leaves everywhere.
The line off to the left here sets you up much nicer for the corner in dry conditions. The right line that we take here is quite a deep clay rut.
You good?
It's not really that great for getting around the corner with much exit speed. The next feature is a tight and technical S-bend. It's got a couple of big steps in it, followed by a tight corner with an exposed edge off to your left. I often try to mellow it out a bit by going far right so my front wheel avoids this first step. I normally brake pretty heavily after this so I can control my speed for the next step and the tight corner afterwards. The next corner is quite steep, so I often aim to set up wide. After this, you've got a big branch to the left that obstructs a lot of the track, followed by an exposed cliff to your right. Next up, we've got an A-line chute and a B-line corner that's very tight and difficult. If you're feeling up to it, I'd recommend forgetting about the B-line altogether and giving the A-line a go. It's not nearly as bad as it looks. The most difficult part of the A-line is actually the corner afterwards. You come in with a lot of exit speed and it's a really tight corner. This is Andy's first time ever attempting the A-line. He was pleasantly surprised with how well it rode. And this is my first time attempting the B-line. I found it really difficult, honestly a lot more difficult than the A-line. It's super tight with no support after the corner. If you didn't make it round, you'd end up face first in the creek below. Next up is the infamous spiral bridge feature. It was built back when bikes were shorter and much more capable of making tight turns. I only just make it around on my trail bike, so I can imagine it would be quite a challenge on a long enduro bike. My strategy is generally to set up as wide as possible and crawl through as slow as I can. On this rocky chute, I try and aim as far to the right as possible without going into the creek. You can see Andy's got his bike lined up in the middle of the roll down, and there's no way he'd fit under that. That being said, he is 6'4", so I don't think he has any chance of getting under it. I normally drop a few gears at this stage because there's a pinch climb just around the corner and it's often really slippery, so no chance for changing gears on the climb. One last difficult corner and then you're home free. I normally try and slow down as much as possible before this corner and set up as wide as I can. It's quite an off-camber corner with very little support. You'd be amazed how many people I've seen disappear into those bushes. Once you've passed that, you've just got these two lovely supportive corners and a bit of a wall ride option if you feel so inclined. Thanks for watching, and let me know what trails you want to see me break down next in the comments below.